Tonight we crown all of our league champions. We now have a queen of the castle, and one final game remains on the FSA calendar. All of this and more in 20 seconds. Hey, fellow fanatics, welcome to the Fanatically Real broadcast sponsored by Football, Darts, and Fantasy Sports Alliance. Merry Christmas, Merry late Christmas to everybody. Happy early New Year to everybody. Merry late Christmas to you, my broadcasting brother. How are you?
I am doing well. I hope that Santa was nice to you and your family.
So let me make sure I got the hand right here. Right above my fingertips there, autographed Curtis Martin Jets football. If I could rotate that so you could not see the Jets logo, but you could still see the Curtis Martin autograph, that would be great. We were able to bring the FSA Walter light back out, and we have our great FSA sign finally posted over here on the wall so everybody can see why we're on the broadcast tonight. Let's see who's out there. Jenna says, hey, Brian. Hi, Brian. MJ says, hey, everyone. Damien says, or Guns of L19 says, oh, that's interesting. Eric's on Twitter tonight, I think, and says, dang, that's a fancy gift. I hope you're talking about this one right here. But yeah, it is pretty fancy. Curtis Martin signed football, except for it is the Jets. You know what would probably make you happier is if that was a Curtis Martin signed football. If it was with him still with the Patriots, though.
That would make me happier.
That would make you happy. Jared Ryan out there with us tonight. Evening to you as well, sir. Hey, let's talk about Football Darts, our broadcast sponsor. Football Darts is a dart game that combines the skill of traditional darts with the strategies of American football. This innovative dart game is played on a uniquely designed multiple target dartboard. It can be played in sports bars, at tailgate events, as league tournaments, or as a leisure activity in the comfort of your home. If you would like to check out their officially licensed collegiate dartboards, go to footballdarts.com, and you can also now find them online at Target, Wayfair, and Fanatics. And I hope you were able to get one of those for your man cave for Christmas this year. I don't know if they sell Patriots ones because they usually only sell them to winners or winning teams, at least, because you are a winner in my heart, Kevin. But neither you or I are getting a Football Darts professional football dartboard this year, for sure, between our two teams.
Yeah, I would say no on that one. Maybe your new team. We'll see how they fare out throughout the playoffs because both of our teams are not there, so.
When we say new team, I haven't really made any kind of major announcement. I don't want to look like I'm on the bandwagon. Let's get through the playoffs. Let's get through the playoffs first. We already know how many times he's disappointed me this year. When I say him, I mean Josh Allen has disappointed me this year. Dead to me quite a few times. So let's see how they fare, but they do look really good right now. I will say that I would probably put them in the finals with Kansas City right now. I can't think of another AFC team that I would put there. You know, probably before the season started, Baltimore was probably in that fight, but not so much anymore. I mean, who else would you put in there right now on the AFC side?
I would probably only put Kansas City. Maybe Tennessee if they squeak it out, because my thought process, and I know that we'll get into this with the NFL news, there's a little added bonus to Buffalo's home field advantage, but being cold there is usually a run game aspect. Nobody wants to catch a 50-mile-an-hour frozen ball, so it's usually on the ground, and that tends to lead towards Derrick Henry, who nobody wants to get hit by that when they're cold. So if they have to play in Buffalo, I do like Derrick Henry's chances. So outside of that, no one else really scares me if I'm Buffalo, other than Kansas City.
But how does that relate to what just happened to Tennessee when they played Green Bay this past week?
I don't really know if it was a great game plan as far as the run game and the goal goes. I think that they tried too much to get all aspects going and try to take it to Green Bay's defense, which I think may be a little bit better than Buffalo's. I think they try to incorporate everything and not be the Tennessee of last year where they were one dimensional. Whereas if they have a chance to play in the cold again, I think they'll just stick to what they know works.
Ross Norris out there, great mind. Ross Norris, the commissioner of NCFF, says, "Happy New Year to all. I'll catch the replay on double speed." I do know that Ross usually watches us on 1.5 speed, so I don't know what it's going to look like or sound like when he listens to us on double speed. But Ross, Happy New Year to you as well, brother. I'll get back to you very, very soon. We got a few more details that we need to work out with these expansion or new leagues that we're going to bring around next year. Heather Newman came on board with us. She's got a very long commercial break with us. I wonder if this will all even fit in the screen. Let's see what this looks like. So we brought up the FSA sign that was given to us by a friend of Heather Newman. We finally got it up now that we've kind of changed the angle and the look of what's behind me during the broadcast. She says, Alliance family, see the FSA wood carving to Brian's left. Guess that would be to my left. That was created by the one and only Barbara Shear. Her creations are amazing. Ladies, your guy would love having something for his favorite team. Your gal would love some of Barbara's other work. Please check out her Facebook page. Look at the photos. She can create just about anything you'd like. If you don't see anything you want to have her, and I think we ran out of characters. Heather, if you've got more out there, please let us know. I'm hoping that she will bring up the Facebook page for us that Barbara has, and we can post that for everybody. We will probably put that down in the comments after the show is over. I know we did it the last time we introduced the FSA sign, but this thing is great. I know you all can't see the detail of this thing probably as it is right now, but the layers that are in Walter, the layers that are in the stars on Walter's hat is just phenomenal. She did a great job on this. When I went to go pick it up, I was just blown away, right, of how great this thing is. Brian Lewis says, have her make for you, please at least like and share her page. She is very, very appreciative of the support. Brian Lewis says that's the rest. Very much appreciate it. Heather also appreciates you, Brian. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Heather, if you have the URL for the Facebook page or where we can find her on Facebook, please type that in for us as well. That way everybody can see that up on the screen if they are watching this on a replay. Hey, we got to get into the empty wagon. So these guys wrapped up week 16 with a great show. Their podcasts never disappoint. We haven't said this in a while, but if you're not listening to Empty Wagon Fantasy Football Podcast, you're doing fantasy football wrong. You can catch them on all the major platforms. You can find them on all of their social media outlets at Empty Wagon FF. Each one of them also has their own Twitter handle that is coming across the bottom of your screen right now. Make sure you go and check those out. You'll see them every single week when we do the heroes and villains. We post their Twitter handles on that as well. And if you can't remember any of this, or you're not watching a replay and you're only listening to it on audio and you can't see what's going on the screen, you can always go check them out on fsa-fr.com, which is the website for all of FSA. And that's where you can get all of the show times and all of the other great things that come along with FSA on our really awesomely designed website that we have out there right now. And there is the website for Barbara, is Barbara's Door Decor and More. You can check that out on Facebook. Please go out and give her a look, you all. It is amazing. I mean, I really cannot. It's just great. Like the painting that's on it, the carving that's on this thing, the layers that's on it. I can't do it justice on the camera. You just have to see it and touch it in person for you to be able to really appreciate what's there. So Heather, thank you for that. Appreciate it. Tell Barbara, thank you very much. We'll see what we can do to continue pushing her way every single week, all the way through the off season and into the next season. Kev, I need a drink, but I think my cup is empty anyways. But I would love to know how the Average Bro show with you and Average Josh went last night.
It went surprisingly well for our average advice that we normally give. Another week in the books. I know we wrapped up most of the leagues around, most of the fantasy leagues around the FSA world, if you will, for everybody that's out there. So what we did was we highlighted some of our season-long winners and losers and foreshadowed next season's drafts, where we think some guys might go up or down our draft boards. And then, as always, our favorite segment wrapped up the show with a little bit of a twist. We did a Pro Bowl version, if you will, of our Top Dog segment, taking an AFC or NFC player across all of the positions. So really my only chance to come back and hopefully beat Average Josh. So I'm very excited to watch these games ahead of this week.
So who did you end up picking that's going to get you hopefully the double points to be able to – you can only tie at this point, right?
No, I can win now. I could only tie if we had not gone this route.
Okay.
If we had just gone the 2 apiece, because I believe I am down 17-13. So the most I could do anyway was 4. So we expanded it. We took 1 quarterback, 1 running back, a receiver, and a tight end. But we're handcuffed by only choosing players within our team's conferences.
Yeah.
I took Josh Allen, Derrick Henry, Keenan Allen, and Mike Gesicki, who are all still playing for something. So hopefully they go out and win this thing for me.
I think these are all great picks for you. So hopefully you'll have a chance to be able to do that. Jenna's on with us. Jenna says, hey. Jenna, welcome to the show. We always appreciate having you on here. You seem to hit every one of the broadcasts no matter what's going on with us. So we do appreciate it. Hey, let's talk about some fantasy football as it relates to FSA. And let's talk about our World Championship, Fanatic Real Bowl World Championship Finals. Our championship final game paired the rookie Christopher Franklin and the Chris Betts against the Great Lakes Regional Champion Matt FRB and the Ohio River Monsters. What I love about this format and the outcome of this game is even though we had 6 regions this season, which means 6 copies of each player across the alliance, these 2 rosters shared 0 players in their starting lineup or on their benches. The Chris Betts is this year's FSA World Champion after defeating the Ohio River Monsters with a final score of 157-138. I know neither one of our regional guys got in there. Was a pretty good final championship. I love the fact that we didn't have any repeat players on our rosters. Just goes to the fact that when people say, well, don't you think you'll have a lot of the same players on your rosters when you get to that World Championship game? Rarely happens. This year we had 0. Love that fact. And the fact that we had a rookie win this year's World Championship speaks volumes as well. I think probably gives a very good argument for himself for Rookie General Manager of the Year, maybe. And we'll talk about that a little bit later on in the show.
Yeah, I was very happy with the outcome of this, having taken the Chris Betts as my prediction to move forward. I know Average Josh did the same. For a slightly different reason. I believe Chris Betts did have Traquan Smith. So until put on the IR there. But definitely a great job to both of these guys, and even more of a congrats to him as he does this as a rookie within FSA.
Matt FRB was actually on with us during happy hour this week, and he said, what is wrong with Kevin? Every single time I have the opportunity to move forward in something, he votes against me. He was really mad at you for that. So it was really, really funny. You know what? Wait a minute. There he is right there. How can we talk about how Kelly picked the Ohio Redmonsters to lose every week since the final week of the regular season was wrong until the final week? What do you say for yourself there, Kev?
I don't think I had him losing every game. I think I had him moving forward, then losing.
Ah,
Because I had him moving forward, and I believe losing to the Hookers to go to the finals. In
well,
my
then
original pick,
I guess you're off the hook then if he was already gone in
yeah,
that round, right?
yeah, I had him moving forward in one round, then losing. Um, I think it's just all of Ohio is stained by the Browns and the lack of usual winning spirit there. So I gotta get my mind out of that thought process and take a look a deeper dive, I guess.
I will say that I'm a little upset by the comment, but honestly, I'm not, which is why I don't support or follow any Ohio team. But that does still hurt a little bit. I mean, seriously, that hurts a little bit. So Brandon Prince from Deep South Creation says, "Hey to everybody, Brandon, how are you? Glad you're on tonight." So I'm hoping, Brandon, if you're still out there watching right now, you'll be able to let me know. So Brandon is the owner of Deep South Creations. He is also the sponsor of the All Team Bowl this year, as he was last year. And we are going to, and we'll talk about it a little bit later on in the show as well. We are going to do the draft live for the All Team Bowl on New Year's Day at noon. I'm hoping that Brandon will come on and be live if he has the opportunity to as well, so everybody can see his awesome face. So we'll bring him on, myself, the two general managers that are drafting, as long as we can get Anthony on as well, because he is in Germany, so it makes it a little bit difficult with the time difference and stuff. But between him and Sean, we'll get them on together, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go further on in the show. Eric says he's glad that he brought Chris on to join at the last minute, as are we, Eric. We very much appreciate that. Matt says you had Turd Ferguson beating me, which I think would have been in the regional championship in the Great Lakes, right?
Well, if that's the case, you can't really fault me there. I mean, funny name.
It is a funny name, right? It's a great name.
Yeah.
So Guns of Eld says, are you going to talk highest score for redraft? My wallet is curious. Eric from Empty Wagon, yes, we will. We are going to talk about that a little bit tonight. Matt says he does forgive you, Kevin. You can't always be right. I mean, and then Brandon says, if you send me the info, I'm there. I sure will, brother. So I'll give you a call ahead of time. We'll make sure that you're available. I'll send you the link just like this, and you'll be right in the broadcast studio with us for that, for the whole draft. That way we can talk back and forth while that's going on. Can't wait to have that happen. So congratulations to the Chris Betts. I don't know if Chris is on with us right now or not. We know Matt's on with us right now, Matt FRB. Matt, congratulations on a great year as well. It wasn't just this league that you had a good season in either. Your name is going to come up, I think, a couple more times as we get ready to get into these dynasty leagues as well. So congratulations. A little bit of a difference between the payout this year between first and second place, and then the cornhole boards that go along with that from Nature Coast Tailgating. But still a great season nonetheless. Can't wait to have everybody back for next year. Since we already mentioned it, let's get into these dynasty leagues. And we're going to go to the Alpha League first. The Birmingham Iron and General Manager Cam Pritchard are our Alpha Dynasty League inaugural champions after he defeated Bill R. Minot III and the Norfolk Neptunes with a final score of 176 to 155. In the other bracket that happened this week, in our third and fourth place game, the Boston Brawlers and Jonathan Broughton knocked off Brian Lewis and the Dayton Triangles with a final score over there of 176 to 160. That does lead to a different payout for those teams that are over on that side. So we wanted to make sure that we mentioned third and fourth place game. I saw Brian Lewis make a comment earlier, so I know he's on. Congratulations to Brian for having a good year with us in our first ever Dynasty Leagues. And we're not done there yet because we have 3 more Dynasty Leagues to talk about. The next one we're going to go to is the Bravo League. And these are words that you're not going to hear very often because your 2020 champion is Jacksonville. But in this case, it's the Bravo Dynasty League Championship, and it's the Jacksonville Sharks. And their general manager, Ted Howard, winning the first year of this league's existence. He earned the championship by beating the Bridgeport Jets, also another name you're not going to hear very often in any kind of championship. and Louis Cintron, their general manager. Final score there was 155 to 142. In the other week 16 matchup, the Brooklyn Lions and Joel Santana claimed third place after defeating Josh Hughes and the Birmingham Barracudas. Josh Hughes from Intuega Fantasy Football Podcast. Final score over there was 203 to 145. You're not involved in that one. You're in Charlie, right?
Correct. I'm in Charlie and in Delta. Neither one of those playoffs.
Neither one of your teams made it over there in the in any of one of those. Let's see what we got out here for a comment. Way to go, Cam. Yeah, Cam Pritchard ended up pulling one off. So very cool to see a guy that plays both in FSA and NCFF over in Ross's league to do very well over here. Been a major player in both of our leagues for a couple of years. So glad to have him over in both of those leagues, definitely in FSA. In Charlie, in one of the leagues that you're in, Kevin, a 41-point margin of victory win gave the Buffalo All-Americans the first ever Charlie Dynasty League championship. Eric Talbot and the All-Americans defeated Central Valley Coyotes and Jared Gordon with a final score of 170-129. And after a very dominating performance all season, Scottish Claymores and general manager Justin Clyburn narrowly defeated the Florida Tuskers and David Hinkle with a final score of 184 to 175 to finish in third place. How did you feel about that? I mean, in that one, the Charlie League was pretty much dominated by Scottish Claymores all year. So I was very surprised to see them not in the finals this year. In fact, I think they only lost one game in the regular season, I think.
I believe it was one, and then going out in the first round to the fourth seed, which kudos to, I believe it was the Buffalo All-Americans, who was the remaining highest scorer. And then to go on and we'll see what they do here in the championship. So I think we have two teams like that, correct? Fourth seeds winning it all?
I don't think we had a single one seed move on into the finals. We talked about it last week, and Jonathan Broughton brought it up because he was actually on the opposite side of the good side of both of those happening. And we asked, this during the Super Show last week, is it wrong for us to be having the number 4 seed playing the number 1 seed as they are the top scoring team of the year? And is it a disservice to the number 1 seed? Jonathan said, no, he was the one that got defeated by these guys and he is completely okay with it. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. We will definitely look at that rule in the off season. But, Jonathan Broughton's pretty much already spoke for 50% of the leagues by it happening to him twice that he is okay with it. So we'll see what that looks like as well. And then I love this comment by Ross right here, since we were talking about Cam just a few minutes ago. Cam Pritchard said he's known him since 2000. That's a long time. That's 20 daggone years. You were like, what, in diapers still then, probably, Kevin, 20 years ago when they played in Pro Football 98 leagues together. Says he's a great guy. And the couple times that I've had conversations with Cam, he has been a very, very great conversations, great guy. And then Ross says he would rather be a number 2 seed than a number 1 seed over here. And I'm starting to wonder if that means that maybe there needs to be a slight adjustment. I mean, tell me what you think about it.
I personally think it is fine how it is, because obviously if you're looking at record-wise, is the NFL's tiebreaker first, then, going down, especially if you look across all leagues. So to have that change, you would have to change the playoff format altogether to go by just high scores, to where the highest scoring is now the first seed, and you're taking the top 4 highest scores versus divisions in general. So to keep divisions, I think it works out best how it is.
What I do like about the format of doing 12 teams like this is when you do play everybody inside your division twice, that is half of your schedule, right? It's not like in the NFL when you play everybody inside your division, that's only 6 out of your 16 games, right? I think It feels like a division winner is less important in the NFL anymore than it is maybe in a league that's this size. As we look at the NFC least and what's going on there with Dallas and Washington and, Philadelphia and the Giants and everything like that, what that looks like. You got a team that is under 500 right now with a possibility going to the playoffs. So I think in a smaller league like this, it's better for us, right? So we'll see. We'll talk about it in the off season. Eric does say, I lost the number 1 seed against a 4 seed, put up or shut up, nothing wrong with the format. And then Matt FRB says, give the number 1 seed the option to pick their opponent. So this is actually something, if Ross is still out there listening to this is something we did a couple of years ago. Ross runs something in one of his leagues called Pick Your Poison. When you're the number 1 seed, you get to pick who you play versus you automatically getting pushed against the number 4 seed, right? I think the year that we did that, though, we started the playoffs that season. Kansas City and the Rams were off the week that we decided to do the Pick Your Poison. And the team that the number 1 seed decided to play against was a team that had a lot of Kansas City, and at the time, I think it might have been St. Louis still. It's been a couple of years. Might have been LA by then, but I don't know. And when they did the Pick the Poison, they picked a team that they knew had a lot of players that were off, right? So they gave them a distinct advantage, and it was, in that case, a number 1 versus a number 2. Number 1 easily glides on when something like that happens. And for us, a lot of that depends on what the NFL schedule looks like. You know, we had no buys this week or this season in week 12. And then we had 2 teams off in week 13, Tampa Bay and Carolina, I think it was. So what does that look like to a playoff picture whenever you're doing a Pick Your Poison as well? So thoughts on that?
I think that changing it to that versus what it is now, I think that it gives somebody too much of an upper hand to really pick if a bye week falls, on one of those weeks. If somebody has an injury that occurs that week or something crazy like we've seen happen this season, not necessarily a fair break if it's a predetermined layout and you just have to play how it lies versus somebody, maybe if I'm the 1 seed and I know I'm a little bit weaker than the top scorer, I take an easy week just to make it through versus playing the true format how we have it now, I think is best.
And you're not wrong, but I mean, but any given week, anything can happen. We've already proven that.
Right.
You think you've got the people locked in. I mean, we're going to talk about it here in the 3rd, 4th place game here in the Delta League in just a second, what that looked like, where any crazy weeks can happen, right? So Eric said the Claymores had an awesome year. He was lucky enough to have the number 1 in the regular season and be able to catch him in the playoffs and be able to beat him. So any given week, right? Doesn't matter if he was 11-1 or I forget what the record actually ended up being for the Claymores, but we know he was the first one to claim any of the divisions in any of the dynasty leagues this year. So great dominating season, but once hit the playoffs, just a little bit different. And then MJ says, why don't we just roll the dice and pick the matchups? That way there's no collusion. I'm not worried about any collusion or anything like that, but rolling the dice, maybe not a bad idea either. I mean, I'm open for any suggestions whatsoever, but for now, we'll probably still keep doing the 1, 4, 2, 3, unless anybody says otherwise in the dynasty leagues. And the great thing, again, about the 4 different dynasty leagues that we have is we can do something in Alpha that we don't necessarily have to do in Bravo, Charlie, or Delta. That's the great thing. Bravo wanted to open up their moving around of rosters earlier in the season, and we allowed that. Alpha, Charlie, and Delta wasn't about that. So, great thing about being able to do that with each one of these leagues. And since we're still sitting there talking about dynasty leagues, let's talk about this Delta Finals. MJ's out there right now. I know she wants to hear her name. So both the San Antonio Wings and the Orlando Apollos only lasted 1 season each when they were in actual real-life existence. But that's not going to be true for the Delta Dynasty Wings and Apollos. These 2 teams will thrive going into 2021 after the 2 faced off in the 2020 championship. The Wings and MJ Cooley got the upper hand on the Apollos and Ted Howard. Final score there, 141-99. This is the game we just talked about a second ago on how anything can happen on any given week. In the 3rd and 4th place game, the Corpus Christi Hammerheads absolutely dominated the Steel Valley Smash. Hammerheads and General Manager Jonathan Brown outscored the Smash play callers, Matt FRB, by 100 points. Final score there was 240-140. And if we really want to stretch the dynasties across the redraft landscape as well, as we gave kudos to Jared Ryan earlier this year for setting the record for the most points ever in FSA history. Right now, Jonathan's 240 points would actually be that record. We have to really figure out where we want those records to stand. Do we look at it across all of our umbrella of leagues, knowing that at least this year, the rules set for the dynasty and the redraft were exactly the same, just more roster spots. But as far as starting lineups and the scoring system go, we're the same across all platforms. Or do we want to keep those records wholesome inside the redraft league? We really got to take a peek at that, because as we talked earlier tonight extensively, we might look into changing the rules for redraft slightly. And if we do that, what does that do to total points for the year or total points for a possible game compared to what the dynasty can do for 2021? So what do you think about that? Should we keep that total points that Jared Ryan had earlier this year in the redraft as that FSA record, or do we have separate books?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but Dynasty does not have defense or kickers, right?
You're absolutely right. Okay, so we do have this. You're right. You're not wrong. We do have the same number of starters, but we don't have the same positions. So that's true. That does play into it, since we know that the possibility of getting negative points or starting a certain amount on the defense and going down, and the kickers doing the same thing. And you're right. Maybe we should start 2 record books. So, yeah, actually, you know what? This is why you're here. This is how you keep me honest. I appreciate that. Records should be separate before dynasty and redraft, since dynasty teams can become much more dominant short term. Brian's not wrong there, so I definitely agree with that. So, I mean, if we're going to say anything right now, I'd have to look back through the regular season games. But because we're bringing it up right now with Jonathan Broughton beating Matt FRB by the 100 points, pretty sure we did not have a team that approached 240 points until this playoff. So Jonathan Broughton now holds the single game record in all of the dynasty leagues with 240 points scored. So congratulations to him. Huge 240 points. And, as we talked earlier, Jared Ryan says, leave me in the books, please. I'm pretty sure he wants to stay over there. And then Brian says people can trade to win now on future draft picks. So, and Brian knows all about future draft picks. I think the guy has like 14 draft picks or whatever in the first 2 rounds. And the Brian, what is that? The Bravo League that you have all of those picks in, I think it is. So, yeah, keep the record book separate, and we'll see what we can do about handing out the records to the dynasty side of the house as well. 240 points. That's pretty phenomenal. And no matter what the format is, no matter if we have kicker and defenses or not, 240 is a lot of points, especially for all of that. If only he had played in the championship game this week instead of the 3rd, 4th place game.
Yeah, I think that the books are good as is, separate from each other. Each one close, but it has its own little spin on things as we look across the different types of leagues in FSA. But kudos either way to both Jared and Jonathan.
Agree. I think both of them will be a little upset if we combine those things. I think they would like to have their names in the record books a little bit separate. So I think that's probably what we'll go with, and we'll keep it separate. So, we brought Jonathan's name up already as we're talking about this new record, right? We're going to bring his name up again as we talk about the Arm and Leg League. So there were quite a few firsts for us in FSA this year. We introduced the Dynasty Leagues that we just got done talking about under the umbrella of, and we introduced the Arm and Leg League that was sponsored by QB54. With only quarterbacks and kickers on the rosters, Jonathan Broughton, a name you've heard pretty much a lot tonight, won our first ever Arm and Leg League. He defeated Anthony Monhay with a final score of 25-16. As you all know, the big prize at the end of this year was a set of QB54 chairs to the champion. Poetic justice, wouldn't it be funny that Jonathan Broughton already owns a set of these, right? He used the FSA discount code that we had going all of last season and ordered a set of these chairs for himself, already has them. So he has deferred this set of chairs to his really good friend, Randy McCarty, who is the guy that got me this light that's sitting right here over my shoulder as well. So those set of chairs are going to be going out to Randy, but still just the same. Congratulations to Jonathan on winning our first ever Arm and Leg League. This is a league we are going to bring back next year and hope that we can expand on. Super cheap league. It will not cost you an arm and a leg. Only $10 to get into. And we're going to see if we can't bring QB54 on again next year to sponsor this league as well. If not, the league will still stand, and we will see if we can't find another sponsor. And we can see if we can get Kevin in on the QB54 Arm and Leg League next year.
I will be there.
All right. I mean, it's only 4 roster spots and 2 players each week. It's not that hard. As Toby said earlier, that's how we conned him into doing the league.
Yeah, but I've got, let's see, probably edging 8 leagues next year. So
where are these extra leagues coming from? You act like you're running your own league under the FSA umbrella or something like that.
Insert foreshadow.
Foreshadow. All right, cool. I like foreshadowing whenever it comes to the FSA. Hey, let's talk about the All-Team Bowl, right? So we were having a couple questions while we were live earlier tonight. I think you actually before we went live earlier tonight, Jared was asking me quite a few questions about the All-Team Bowl as he saw this image right here. So for those of you who have been around FSA for a while, you know that we do our version of the Pro Bowl at the end of the year in Week 17. And this is to crown our 3rd and 4th place teams. This is sponsored this year by Deep South Creations. We use a lot of elements from old Pro Bowl and new Pro Bowl philosophies. We do it in Week 17. We use the 2 teams that went out in the semifinal round of the World Championship to general manage these 2 teams. But in this case, what we do is a whole brand new draft that goes along with it. And what you're looking at is what those rosters look like for these 2 teams as they get ready to draft their All-Team Bowl teams on New Year's Day, 1 January at noon East Coast time, hoping to have both Sean Purcell, the general manager of the Naughty Dogs, and Anthony Monhay, the general manager of the Lunatics Live, along with this game sponsor, Brandon Prince from Deep South Creations, on with us live. So what the teams are going to do is, and let's see what we got out there. He said, you're almost as bad as Tack Jones. I want to know what I'm almost as bad as when it relates to Tack Jones and Brad Buckner. What I will say is I'm not as bad as Brad. I am as good as Brad, whatever it is that you are bringing up.
I think they were referring to the amount of leagues I am.
Oh, the amount of leagues that you're in. Oh, Kevin in his 8 leagues. Yeah, you weren't wrong there. I think Brad said something about having 10 this year, right? Yeah. You said Brad has like 10. Yeah, I think that's what he said. And I think when he let us know that he was in 10 this year, he was cutting down from what he normally has to be able to get to 10. So the 2 teams are going to draft in this All-Team Bowl, right? So Sean has already let us know, because he was the 3rd place team coming into this by total points and record for the year, that he is going to draft first. It is a snake draft just between 2 teams, so it'll be very, very quick back and forth. It'll be a total of 32 picks, 16 picks per each one of the teams. What you see here on each one of these rosters right here. The reason we call it the All-Team Bowl, there will be 32 players taken. It'll be 1 player from each NFL team. As a player is taken from a particular NFL team, no other players can be taken from that team. It is going to be very difficult for these guys, as we're seeing reports come out now of a lot of our playoff teams in the NFL starting to rest players, right? Kansas City's resting everybody, what we've heard. So in this case, you're losing a Patrick Mahomes, a Travis Kelce, a Tyreek Hill, any of the running backs that's on that team. It makes it very difficult to draft a Kansas City player, right? So what are you left with? Butker and Kansas City's defense, right? Maybe, right? To make it even more difficult, what we're going to do is bring the dice out that were built for us by Deep South Creations last year to be a part of the All-Team Bowl this year. So what happens is we're going to roll 2 dice through the first 8 rounds of this draft. Whatever position comes up on these drafts, those are the positions that you can draft for on your roster. If it's 2 different positions, let's say what you see right here on the screen right now is Walter, who's upside down, which represents the quarterback and kicker. These would be the 2 positions you'd be able to pick whenever it was your turn to make your selection. Let me get them here. If running back comes up for you on both of those dice, you must select a running back as long as you have a spot available on your roster for a running back. That will continue for the first 8 rounds of the draft. From rounds 9 through 16, we will add a 3rd dice in there. That 3rd dice will act just very much like the first 2 did, where is if the 3 different positions come up, you can draft any of those positions. If there is a duplicate in 2 of those or in 1 of those, however you want to look at it, if it's a wide receiver, running back, your first selection has to be a wide receiver unless you have ran out of space for your wide receiver. Then you must select a running back. If you're out of spaces for wide receiver and running back, then we re-roll for you. There will be a little bit of flexibility in this as we look at the flex positions of running back / wide receiver and running back / wide receiver / tight end, the only flex positions that you have on your roster. If all 3 of these dice roll the same position, I've already talked to Sean and Anthony. There will be 2 choices that will happen with this. They will either be able to fill the position that shows up on all 3 of those dice, or they will be able to steal a player from their opponent regardless of the position. Does not matter what's on the dice. And then the team that has a player stolen from them gets to automatically replace that player in that same position without losing their rotation in the draft. After they get done doing their 16 rounds and 32 picks, they will send us their depth chart football starting lineup. And what you're seeing here is 150 and 25% as you look at it on the screen, meaning the players that they put in their starting lineup at the 100% will get 100% of the points that they score for fantasy that week. Those in the second string will get 50%, and those in the third string will get 25%. Now, we have seen this play out where it has actually cost a team that should have won the game if all 16 spots counted for 100%. But because they put a player that scored them, say, 24 points down in the 25% part, and they only ended up getting, what's that work out to be, like 6 points? Cost them the game. So after they get done doing the drafting, they will send us their starting lineups. The week 17 games, which this all takes place during, are all on Sunday. All Sunday. So we don't have to worry about a Thursday game, Saturday games, Monday games. Everything's happening on Sunday. The biggest thing that they're going to have to worry about right now is which teams are resting which players. And every year it happens. We have somebody ends up drafting a player that ends up being doesn't end up starting, takes a 0 for them. You know, if you have any question, strategy coming from me, put them in that 25%, just in case you have any questions about it. I know this is your first time you're hearing about the All-Team Bowl. What do you think about this format of play as far as a 3rd, 4th place Pro Bowl for FSA?
This is the first time I've heard anything like it, and I'm a big fan. I think that it's something that's unique to FSA, as most of our leagues and formats are. So I do like that wrinkle. I do like that it is still competitive for that 3rd, 4th place and for a prize through Deep South Creations, and having a bowl named after them definitely shines some light there as well. So I think it's great all around, and I think that it kind of it adds a more competitive twist than if a person was locked into playing in week 17 with the team that they had drafted and not being able to work around the players that are being sat, because I would probably say 90% of leagues usually end in week 16 because of this. So it's a nice little neat workaround for that.
I read quite a few years ago, just before we decided as FSA to switch off of playing our bowl game in week 17, that said, if you are still playing in a fantasy league that has their bowl in week 17, you need to get out of that league. And it took me quite a few years to understand the whole resting of the players in week 17 type thing, to be able to finish our bowl games in week 16. But something like this, the uniqueness of this, right? You're already going to get money. You're already going to get enough money to cover your coverage for the next year. It's just a way to separate that third and fourth place in a unique way, with given our ability to be able to do a Pro Bowl with FSA. We tested it 5-6 years ago as a beta, just with a group of guys that I had when I was stationed with at Fort Hood. The draft was super fun. That was probably the most fun that we had with any of it. Being able to find a player on a roster that you wouldn't normally think about grabbing. And as you look at this, there are duplicate positions that are on this. You're going to end up grabbing 3 quarterbacks. You're going to end up grabbing 2 defenses. You have a lot of running backs, wide receiver, and tight end options in all of this. So you have a lot of flexibility in what you do here. So it will be a lot of fun. And even better is we get to do it live. That's what I'm going to love the most, is being able to have Sean and Anthony on with us to be able to do it right here in the studio. Doing it from Atlanta, Georgia, all the way over to, I don't even know where he's at in Germany right now, to be on here with us. That will be super, super cool to have that going on. And Jenna says right here, she says, yay, Deep South, love the VRV family. Absolutely love our VRV family. And we love Brandon Prince. I know Jenna was just up there visiting him and his family recently, and I can't wait for our event that's going to go on in Tennessee here soon. Yeah, I'll see you all there when we get there. And I know this was going to come up during the show. I was kind of hoping Chris would be asleep, but I forgot that this man never sleeps. I think he sleeps less than me. When does trading open? March 1st. How about we just use that as a benchmark for right now? March 1st. And then we'll go from there. And I know that means that we probably won't hear from you again, Chris, until March 1st, which saddens me greatly and deeply. Please don't go away, and don't go away far. We'll let you know what that's going to look like as we have some more debate up here in the in FSA headquarters on what that's going to look like. So please don't go far. So Eric asked about this earlier, right? He wanted to know what was going on with the top scoring team of the year because his wallet was asking. So we do give a $75 prize out at the end of the year for the top scoring team all the way through week 17. That doesn't mean, and that includes everybody, those that were eliminated in the playoffs before we got into the regional playoffs, even as we got into the bowl games, got into the world championship brackets, all of that. You still start a lineup every single week. You have the opportunity to be the top scoring team at the end of the season. You get $75 for that, which is $25 more than you need to play for FSA for next year. And right now, Gadget Guys, general managed by Eric O'Neill for Empty Wagon Fantasy Football Podcast, is in the lead for that with 1 week left to go. He has 2,653 points. The next closest team to him is the Miami Inferno with 2,557 points. That means the Inferno needs to outscore the Gadget Guys by 96 points this week to overtake him. Pretty big feat, but we're doing this all the way through week 17. They are still stuck with the rosters that they played with all year, unlike our all-team bowl guys that get to redraft. So we'll see what that looks like. We only ended up putting the Inferno on this week because I feel like everybody was pretty much outside of the Gadget Guys' reach going into week 17. So it really comes down to these two guys. We talked a little bit earlier tonight before we went live of what that's going to look like next year to keep people more and more involved, to kind of give a little bit of foreshadowing and scratch the idea a little bit for everybody for 2021. We are thinking about giving a $50 payout to the top scoring team in all of the Alliance next year. And we are also thinking about doing a weekly payout for those that don't make any kind of playoffs in FSA. If you are the top scoring team each one of the weeks, once we get into the playoffs, all the way until week 17. So if we do a payout of $15 every week for 5 weeks and you can stay at the top of that, you could easily earn your entry fee into the following year. This will keep everybody interested, and it'll be a weekly payout. We could, after that week is done, whatever you scored, wipe that slate clean. Whenever you score the next week, you're the top scoring team. You have the possibility of earning yourself $15. So Kevin's idea, I think it's a great idea. Glad you came up with it. Thank you, Kevin. But we will make sure that we put that in the rule set for 2021. Chris says, I've already been asleep and woke up. It's 2 o'clock. Why are you up at 2 o'clock in the morning? And how long did you sleep? If you're already awake at 2 o'clock and a wake up for me means I've only been asleep for like 3 hours, maybe 3.5, 4 if I'm lucky. That's just insane. Unless you're talking East Coast time. I don't know what that's, if you're still talking Euro time or whatever there. Hey, you know what happened this week? King of the Castle.
Happened?
King of the Castle. What happened uniquely in King of the Castle? Do you know?
I said, you mean Queen of the Castle?
Queen of the Castle. You're absolutely right. So Heather Newman, Queen of Hearts, ends up taking over the throne this week as the Queen of the Castle, as we are still testing out what we're affectionately calling King of the Castle League, but we might have to change that and figure out another name for it, because we now have our first queen sitting on the throne, and I don't want to discriminate against anybody. She ended up winning this week. She's sitting on the throne. We have one more week of testing of King/Queen of the Castle for 2020 before we decide to test some more in 2021, which we'll let everybody know right now. We are going to continue testing this league through 2021. We don't feel that the 6 or 7 weeks that we got to test it was the big enough sample set for us to say this is what we want to do for 2021. So we're going to do it again through 2021. But I do love this. Chris says, person of the castle. I'm pretty sure we can come up with something a little bit more creative, but we'll go with that if we have to. And Heather Newman says, that's right, no discrimination. Congratulations, by the way. You've got one more week to hold on to it. I even made roster moves today. I made waiver wire moves. I know I have no chance of being able to reach to the top of the castle, but I still wanted to make sure the processes were still there and stuff like that. So good luck at holding on to it. And if you can, then you will off into beta version 1.0 as the person that sits on the throne. So congrats on that. Yeah. Well, okay. So I know you've said it plenty of times of what you think of the King of the Castle, but let's talk about the rule set for next year for a little bit. Let's just talk about it a tiny bit. What do you think we need to go into 2021 as the basis to make this work?
I think you have to make it so you start with, obviously we did the latter part of this. I think we only did 2 weeks where you pillaged 2 players. So I think if the consensus is just 1, then it start at 1. I'm still personally okay with 2. I think other people felt like it could be too much, but that's just my opinion. And as you roll through and you look at the waiver wire moves, it should be worst to first as we're looking at the open waivers, and worst to first going by points, I believe is the best way to do that. And if you're looking at who can be pillaged, I think we're all pretty set on just the starting lineup, not the 2 bench positions. I think that I would keep the roster size the same. I don't think making it any smaller makes too much of a difference because it is already the smallest roster size we have amongst FSA with only 8. Outside of
Don't forget Arm and Leg League.
Outside of the Arm and Leg League.
Yeah.
So I think that should stay the same. I personally feel if you move, because I would rather pillage 2, if that's the case, then the winners do not go onto the waivers. They they cannot make waiver moves. I think that would be my most ideal set. I don't think that we ran that long enough to see if that really affected anything. We changed it pretty quick in only 2 weeks, so I would prefer that over what we have now. But as what we have now, I think um, works either way. I think it's just a little bit more competitive um, with our original set.
I think the majority of what you just said is what we're probably going to go into 2021 with. And you're right. We when we did do the two team or the two player pillage, we did not include those teams in the waiver wire move, right? Um, from the logistics side of the house and what we can do with MFL, going in and having to check and uncheck who can and cannot make moves that week based on a pillage could be a little cumbersome. So maybe, and you know, you've heard me say this before. We are thinking about maybe, and Chris, I know you might still be awake out there, so you get to hear this because you didn't get to test this out with us in 2020, since we are going to do this through 2021. We're thinking about running two different set of rules to start off with in 2021, since we are still doing it in a beta test, version 2.0. That way we don't change the rules as much as we did through these 6-7 weeks for this one, where we can change a small rule in one and a small rule in another one and see what it looks like, you know. And I think you were the one that said it, that we need to draw a line in the sand at some point though and say, okay, this is the rules that we're going to roll with for the rest of the year. What does that look like for each one of these leagues? So since you brought it up, maybe one of the ways we do it is we still do pillage two players, and then those that are winners don't get a chance to be on the waiver wire. That's a possibility. The other side would be one pillage, waiver wire, worst to first on points, regardless of what tier you're in, whether you're Esquire, Knight, Duke, Grand Duke, you know, King or Queen. One of the things that I think we have figured out with the help of Ross, I don't know if he's out there right now, but he'll listen to us on double speed later, is what does that schedule look like each one of the weeks? For those of you that are out there that have been paying attention to it, what we've been doing over the last couple of weeks is, if you were in that Esquire Lady level, which is at that bottom 8 level, the two teams that have the longest losing streak play against each other to give one of those teams the opportunity to move up. Then the teams that are in that next level of losing streak will play against each other, and so on. If there is a tie at the length of a losing streak, what happens then is the top 2 point getters so far for the year play against each other, and the next 2 point getters play against each other. And we do the same thing at the Knight level, and then at the Dame or at the Duke level, we already know that those two teams are playing against each other, right? So what we're trying to do is match the two teams that are competitively close against each other, instead of doing a more traditional bracket where a 1 plays a 4 and a 2 plays a 3. In this case, we're trying to do a 1-2 versus 3-4 to give everybody the opportunity to move up in this league. So we might play with 2 different rule sets as we start off in 2021, but we're going to only continue beta testing it. But along with that beta test, why would you want to join this if we're only going to do a beta test for a season long? Whether we do it as 1 league or 2 leagues, if you end up winning one or either one of those leagues, you will get a free entry into King of the Castle when we do present it as part of the umbrella of leagues under FSA in 2022. So please let me know through here, direct message, group me, whatever, that you are interested in continuing on with the beta test, or if you're a Chris Simpson and want to jump on to make sure that you do the beta test with us in 2021, please let me know as well. Go ahead, man.
I'll go ahead and throw it in here as a cheap plug for myself and obviously for FSA in general. As we do look to continue to beta test King Castle, we will look to continue to add leagues within FSA. Next year, we will be adding a IDP auction league for people that are interested in auction. We will look to change it up a bit ahead of that, depending on the amount of interest we have into it. Could possibly turn into a keeper league, but for next year, as far as a first year, as a inaugural year, will be a redraft IDP auction league. Please if you are on any of our social medias or in the group me, send me a message, and I will mark you down for an either um, get you some information on it or just an early entry to join before the league officially opens in March.
How many teams you looking for this league, Kev?
It will be 14.
14. Okay, cool. Good to know. All right, so if you are interested in playing in an auction and an IDP league that will not for the moment be a keeper league, but will turn into a keeper league, please reach out to Kevin. Let him know that you're interested in that. He will be the commissioner of it under the umbrella of FSA, and I'm excited about it. Auction. IDP. Like it's a combination of NCFF and Meathead. I'm just having like pre-flashbacks, like I'm having PTSD or something right now. We'll see how well that goes for me. NFL Playoff Challenge, right? So we've been doing this for, I don't know, 4 or 5 years now. NFL.com does what I think is probably the greatest playoff challenge that's out there. MFL has them. I think ESPN, Yahoo has them as well, but nobody does it like NFL does. We are going to open that up again this year for the NFL Playoff Challenge for everybody to get involved. You don't just have to be an FSA member to get involved in this. Once the regular season is over for the NFL, after week 17 is over, all of the playoff teams are put in place. NFL.com will open up their playoff challenge. We will send out the invites to everybody. We will put it out on our social media, Instagram, Yahoo, Twitter. We want everybody, not just FSA members, to get involved in this. If you've never done the NFL Playoff Challenge, I don't know if it's open yet on NFL.com, but I'm sure if you go out and Google it, you can see what the rule set is going to be. We'll do the best that we can to explain it next week as well before we get everybody involved. I think playoffs next week start like 17 or weeks, which would be week 18, but it'll be on a Saturday and a Sunday, I think is how they usually do those. We will explain the rules to it. We will give everybody links to it and stuff like that. Why would you want to play in the NFL Playoff Challenge? Because if you win this league, you get a free entry into the FSA redraft next year. Brian Lewis won it 2 years ago. Todd Spencer won it this past year. I think the first year or two we did it, we just did it for fun. But now we have a what for at the end of it, and you are playing for a free redraft buy-in for the 2021 season, and we will put it out to the masses. Everybody is encouraged to join. Jonathan says, I'm still interested. Sign me up. I think Jonathan is probably talking about your league, Kevin. So you can definitely put him down for that, for the auction IDP. Quickly, your IDP is going to look like what?
So it will be 3 IDPs for those that do not know what IDP is. That's individual defensive players. So you will pick up 1 defensive lineman, 1 defensive back, a linebacker, and then a DB, either a corner or a safety, and they will score points based on sacks, tackles, interceptions, and fumble recoveries, and then that will replace a full team defense as you see traditionally in our redraft league. No kickers as well, but
Okay.
everything else in the team will match what we do in redraft. Same type of scoring there will also be a super flex.
We should bring this up right now, part of the 2-hour-long discussion that we had earlier. There is possibly a rule change, a scoring change coming for the redraft league for next year. Very minute, very small. We are thinking about changing the PPR. Instead of it being a tight end premium, we are thinking about changing it to a full point PPR across the board. Just wanted to make sure everybody knew that. We're still tossing around the idea, not 100% set on it, but whatever we do end up settling on for the redraft will be used in the auction IDP league as well. So just wanted to let everybody know that. You can put your comments on your thoughts on that if you want here. As you know, we did a half a point PPR this year, tight end premium, full point PPR. I toyed around with the idea of maybe lowering the points for passing touchdowns for quarterbacks. Kevin very convincingly, over a 2-hour conversation, told me why that was probably not the best idea and thought better if we were to raise the half a point PPR to a full point PPR across the board for all receivers, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends. And that's probably something that we're going to go along with. Now, will that affect dynasties? No, because I know that a couple of our dynasty players are out there right now listening. We will not change any of the scoring across the dynasties without a full vote from the dynasty leagues themselves. What we're talking about right now is just for the redraft. Just to let everybody know. Hey, we're getting close to wrapping this up. We're in an hour and 5 minutes now, but let me talk about the end of the season awards for FSA. FSA will hold its FSA Honor Show during the final Fanatic Real broadcast of the season, which is going to happen on 10 February 2021. We will give honors to the top scoring team of the year, the general manager of the year, and the rookie general manager of the year. Both the general manager of the year and the rookie general manager of the year will be selected by their peers. The voting process will be conducted on SurveyMonkey, which is a great online survey service that's out there. Veteran players will vote for the general manager of the year. The rookie players will vote for the rookie general manager of the year. And all of that process will begin right after we conclude the Deep South Creations All-Team Bowl, and will continue all the way through the NFL Super Bowl weekend, along with us doing our NFL Playoff Challenge. I know we didn't get a chance to really pick our primetime games last week and who we thought was going to win. We're going to say we're all winners for last week, and I'm still beating you for the season. I like the way that sounds. We do have a Sunday night game this week, even though everybody does play on week 17. It was flexed on the NFL schedule. So we end up having Washington play Philadelphia.
Yes.
And what was the point of flexing them to that spot? Because Dallas and the Giants are doing what? They're playing against each other, right?
Yeah, I believe it was just to give the teams and viewers a chance to watch teams that are still fighting in the last week for the division, a poor division to flex into it, as I believe the Titans are also playing for their division. But all three teams still do have a chance to win. The Washington football team, Giants, and Cowboys, that is, only the Eagles are out.
Oh, that's so sad. I really don't care. So next broadcast. So Empty Wagon will be back with us on Friday, going into Saturday, East Coast time at midnight. They will be back on air again Sunday, going into Monday, midnight East Coast time. We will have happy hour on Sunday night during Sunday Night Football during that Washington and Philadelphia game. And then Tuesday, you and Average Josh will be back for episode 14 of the Average Bros. Man, has it really been 14 weeks already? Pretty crazy. 15 weeks, really, because we didn't really up your episode number as you guys did the Super Show with us last week. So really 15 weeks for you guys.
Well, yeah, 6 if you count after the combined show. When we did it with just yourself and us, and then the week of the Super Show as well. So a couple episodes off of the season we can count, but nonetheless out of focus.
Yeah. And you're breaking up super bad, which means that an hour and 9 minutes, it is probably time for us to go. So, and then we will be back next week, this same time, 8:30 East Coast time, PM, for the Fanatic Real broadcast. We will be episode 50, I think, for the year. Good Lord. But we cannot go out without thanking all of our sponsors: Finger Lakes Mercantile, Football Darts, Nature Coast Tailgating, Deep South Creations, Southern Siren Sugar Scrub, QB54, Cranky Veteran Candle Company, and The Recast, the official music of FSA. For all of you that have won a Rivalry Bowl game that have sponsors that go along with that, we will double and triple check your mailing address, and we will get with those sponsors and make sure that your packages and winning prizes get out to you. And that will happen very, very shortly. So expect me to be asking you lots of questions and the sponsors to be asking you lots of questions as we get that stuff to you. Kev, it's been fun. If you are not already following all of FSA on all of their social media stuff, it's coming across the bottom of the screen right now. Go out to the website at fsa-fr.com. Follow us on all of our social media. I think we're like 7 away from reaching 300 on Twitter. We're a couple away from 600 on Instagram and Facebook. Please go out and follow us if you're not already. Tell all your friends, family, and coworkers about us. And I guess I'll see you next week.
I'll see you there.
I didn't get a chance to tell you, I very much like your T-shirt this week too.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm glad you like that. All right, y'all. Have a great Alliance evening. Have a happy New Year. And we will see you at noon on New Year's Day for the Deep South Creations All-Team Bowl Draft. Make sure you are here for that. And we'll see y'all later.